What's going on, guys? Prepper School Volume 2.
Volume 2.
In the house. Hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for coming out to Sensible Prepper Live. And we're starting our Volume 2 on the Prepper School series.
It would actually be Volume 1 because last week was just kind of an overview.
Yeah, but we had a lot of good information.
There was.
And we had a lot of
You're
good
right.
questions.
We did.
Which-
The questions last week were awesome.
They were awesome. And guys, we're going to be having a time where we're going to be talking about questions. Just letting you guys do it. You can go ahead and start asking questions now. Sarah Max over on the computer, and she's checking them out. Really appreciate Robbie Wheaton from Wheaton Arms and GoMed Gear for being with us. He's been a gunsmith for over 20 years, competitive shooter, and just an all-around good guy.
Encyclopedia of gun knowledge.
That's right. 2020 edition.
2020
Yeah,
edition.
that's right. There's so many new things coming out. But we really appreciate you guys being here. One thing I do want to mention, though, is Robbie has a sale coming up because, guys, on the Wheaton Arms website, they have Glock aftermarket barrels, triggers, guide rods, all kind of different things that'll really get your Glock rolling. And then also with your GoMed gear,
Yep.
a lot of emergency medical supplies.
So we're going to be having a big flash sale. Starts midnight at Thursday, midnight this Thursday through midnight Friday, on Wheaton Arms for all of our Glock 17 barrels, and then on GoMed Gear and Wheaton Arms for all of our medical kits. There'll be 20% off on the medical kits. The Glock 17 barrels will be $175. They're normally either $220 or $230, and you use coupon code Sootch, SOOTCH. For the GoMed Gear or for Wheaton Arms, either one.
So check them out, guys. And we really do appreciate Robbie for being here every week. It's just a big help, and it keeps some comedy relief going. We also appreciate Sportsman's Guide. Sportsman's Guide gives the Sootch viewers or the Sensible Prepper viewers $20 off every $100 or more purchase. And it is a great way to save money. A lot of course, guns and ammunition and all kind of hunting gear, everything else, but really big on surplus,
Yep.
which is a big thing when you're looking at prepping because you can get really quality stuff at reasonable
And
prices.
save some money. Absolutely. Yes. And you have to look at signing up for their Buyers Club as well. Sign up for their Buyers Club. You get free shipping on the majority of items, and you get another discount on top of that just by signing up and being a member of their Buyers Club.
So we really appreciate Sportsman's Guide. We have been buying from Sportsman's Guide. Go ahead and show the big catalog.
The coolest catalog there are. If you don't have this catalog already, even if you don't buy anything from them, sign up and get this catalog. I'm telling you, it is awesome.
And you'll get it, and then you'll start buying.
That's right.
It was funny. I was on there. I'm looking for something to pull behind my ATV, a plow, and to pull out, just for our garden that we're getting ready to really start a new garden area. And I've been looking and looking. Found them on Sportsman's Guide, and I was like, there you go. So and I get my $20 off my Sootch discount.
Free shipping on it too?
I don't know about that.
Okay.
That's pretty heavy.
That's a big item.
But a lot of times they will do free shipping, and then there's just a surcharge, which is not much, but it's a really great resource, and we really appreciate those guys. They're so good to deal with. Okay, today we're going to talk about some basics. Now, these are things that, we're coming up on the winter, and especially in the northern states, you guys have dealt with this for a long time. But a lot of times it seems like the lower part of the country, we're never prepared.
Completely
ever.
Unprepared.
But even if you are, and two, if there's some comments and questions and things you want to put down, we can definitely bring that up. But we're going to just look at coming together because here's the thing, guys, your basic prepping needs to start out with just taking care of every day, every day. Because here's the thing, if you've got every day kind of taken care of, and we'll go down the list, but you're already a prepper. You may not be a doomsday prepper. You may not be let's SHTF grid down, the world's zombie apocalypse, but you're already being prepared. And really, guys, it's just smart. But number two, when you've got your basic emergency preparedness done, when you get that done, you're already on the way to being more prepared for bigger situations.
Sounded like that video of Sam shooting I just showed you.
Yeah. Okay, so first thing we'll talk about, though, is a plan. And guys, we need to have plans put together for emergencies. You have your storms, hurricanes, tornadoes, power outages, just your normal basic things. But you also have a car kit and car emergencies. You got to think about that. You can have a fire. Do you have a plan for your family in case there's a fire? It's super important. I was talking to somebody the other day. They said that they went into a house and their alarm, their smoke alarm didn't work, and they all died of smoke inhalation.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there's some different things that you can put together. If you have a 2-story house, especially, but having a plan, because here's the thing, and this just happened a couple of years ago. There was a family, house caught on fire. They got out of the house and they're standing there, and then all of a sudden they realized that one of the little girls wasn't there. And so the dad runs back into the house and gets trapped and burns to death. The little girl had run out the back door and she was at the back. So making a plan for your family to say, hey, we have a plan. There's a certain place that we all meet if something happens. That way we know everybody's there.
Well, you've got to have a rally point.
Right.
That's first and foremost. Well, first and foremost is knowing all of your exits, how you're going to get out if there's a fire. If you're, like I said, 2-story house, or you're going out a window, do you have a rope ladder that you can use to get out of the window? Different ways to egress and get out of the home. But after that, once everyone's out, where's your rally point?
Right.
You have to have a rally point where all of you go to the same location, and then it's easy to know that everyone's out of the home. You're all there, you're all standing around, you're like, okay, well, it's awful that our house is burning down, but hey, that's why we've got insurance.
Right.
We'll be able to rebuild, but we can't rebuild, our family.
All right.
We've got to make sure that our family's taken care of first and foremost. The assets, things like that, that's all replaceable.
Right. So, having some kind of plan. Now, one of the things about that plan, and this is something that a lot of homes don't have, are fire extinguishers.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do have one, make sure that it's up to date. So fire extinguishers, not only in your home, but also in your vehicle. We have a friend of ours that his truck burned up. I mean, he barely got out. He grabbed a couple of things. That thing went up in flames.
Yeah, the fuel line broke under the engine, and it had an electric fuel pump. And the fuel line broke, caught on fire, and it just continued pumping fuel onto the engine and burned his entire truck up in like a minute and a half. It was gone.
Yeah, he just grabbed a few things out of the seat. Yep. So, but here's the thing, guys, you need to have some kind of plan put together. So we're going to talk first about storms. And that, this is a common thing that happens to us, but for some reason we get caught. Houston and Texas area, they had a big
snowstorm last year.
Ice storm. Yep. And power went out, water froze. I mean, it was a big mess. They're not used to those power outages. So guys, have some things put together for your power outage. Now, hand me that box right there, Robbie. One of the things, and I did a video on this a while back. This is my blackout box. This has candles. It has a small med kit. I keep gloves in here. I keep flashlights with extra batteries. We keep a radio in here, a small little weather radio. Just keep the basics that we may need in case there is any kind of power outage at the house. And everything is right there together. I did a video on it. I may try to annotate it in a minute, but you can go to the Sensible Prepper channel and search it out. But just having your items together. And then what that does is that allows everybody to move. One of the things about a storm, like for us, we have tornadoes that come through on occasion, and fairly, it's getting more recent for some reason, or more, regular. But keeping a good pair of boots. A lot of times in the middle of the night, you get up, you're in your pajamas. There's a warning. You go into your safe room, and you're all. But then the aftermath, you're gonna need some boots or some shoes, some sturdy shoes. You need to have your rain jacket. One thing too is having tarps, because you could have damage to your house. And having a lot of tarps, it could be that you're having damage to where you're getting wet, and you need to be able to cover yourself. One thing that we do is we keep these heavy meal trash bags. And this is going to come into play with some other things, but not the cheap garbage bags, but the contractor bags. They're heavy meal. These things are tough as nails. I keep one of these in all my get home bags and go bags anyway. So we keep a big box of these, and they're more expensive than your standard, but we don't use these for our standard trash. And so these are great to have around. There's so many different uses. Another thing is, especially with storms, is having some kind of weather radio. There are alerts on this radio that if there is, because a lot of times you have your phone, sometimes you can set it up to warn you about tornadoes or floods or different things that are happening. But if you have cell coverage that's out, the towers come down, you need to have communication. And this one is a crank. It's got a solar panel. It's got regular batteries that are rechargeable. It has shortwave. It has weather, has NOAA, which is the National Weather Service. And so having just a small little radio like this, it's something we don't really have that often.
That's right.
And so, having some kind of radio communication. So, putting together a plan. Now, another thing that's big is your lanterns. Now, this is kind of a cool little lantern. This is a brand new lantern from Olight. I just got it in, so I thought I'd show it. But one thing I like about lanterns, not necessarily fuel lanterns, but battery powered, is I don't have to worry about an open flame.
That's right.
It's very dangerous. We're going back to fire again. And if you have candles sitting around, it can be a danger. So being able to have some kind of little small lanterns, even if it is one of the ones that have fuel, that you pour the fuel in, it has the wick and that, it kind of, at least it's something that's contained. But a lot of times, and we have them in our blackout box, we have all these candles. And so that is one thing you don't want to do, is be in a situation, an emergency situation, and then turn right around and create a bigger emergency, because you're really just not prepared.
I like having the battery operated lanterns or flashlights in a lot of cases, especially if you have small children in your house. You don't have to worry about them touching the lantern and burning themselves, or touching the candle, knocking a candle over, setting stuff on fire. So it's a lot safer if you have smaller children or animals, pets and animals and stuff in your home.
That's true.
The battery operated ones are a lot safer than the fuel driven ones that actually have a flame in there. So you don't have to worry about, somebody getting burned or setting something on fire because of small children and pets.
Well, and one thing too, and I kind of got ahead a little bit of this, but having your standard EDC, you have your billfold, your phone, your keys, the regular things everybody carries. But then, having your knife, have a small knife in your pocket, or even a large knife for that matter, and then having some kind of flashlight. And this is one thing that a lot of us do all the time. We keep our EDC items, multi-tools. It's funny, I don't carry a multi-tool on me, because I just don't use them enough to where I have it takes up room in my pocket. But I do have multi-tools in my car. I have them in my range bag. I have them in my camera bag. I have them, in the house. I have them in different places. So if I need one, I've got it usually very handy. But those things, whatever you use on a regular basis, that is your first line of preparedness. And of course, obviously, if you're a concealed carry holder, having your firearm with you. And so, those are that. If you're doing that, you're already basically prepared for just kind of everyday life. But then again, trauma kits. These are super important, especially if you go to a range at all, or you're cutting wood. A good friend of mine was cutting wood. He was at home. He had on glasses, had on safety. He may have had just regular glasses, but I think they were safety glasses. And when he was cutting a limb, it was under pressure, and the limb came back and popped him in the eye, and it took his eye out. And so, and it really, he thought at first, he could see a little bit, and then it just went down, and then he lost his eye. And so having, eye wash, medical stuff on hand, and being very careful, because anything can happen. One of the reasons why I carry a knife, it really got me to carrying a knife every day, was a buddy of mine who's now in law enforcement. It's really funny. He tells this story. Some of his cousins came out. They were having fun. They were out in the woods playing around, and his cousins were older, and they took him and they tied him up to a tree. And so he's tied up in a tree, and they left him. They just left him in a tree. Well, he was trying to wiggle free and got caught and got the rope around his neck. And he said, I was choking to death. I was going to die. And he reached into his pocket. He pulled out a pocket knife and he cut the rope. Carry a knife, guys. This is a basic tool that man has always had, whether he's fashioned it out of stone, copper, whatever. But we have some really nice quality knives out there, and it's really important to have that EDC covered.
One of the big reasons why I always carry one is you're in a vehicle and you have an automobile accident and you can't get your seatbelt undone and you need to get out of the vehicle. You've got a knife where you can cut your seatbelt. So it's just an easy way to be able to get out of that seatbelt and get out of that vehicle if you have to.
It's funny how when you have an accident, though, sometimes your seatbelt's locked up.
They do. That's right.
So, that's definitely, there's a lot of reasons why you should carry a knife. And plus, just every day.
And I always try and buy a pocket knife that has a glass break on the pommel. So if I do get trapped in a vehicle, I've got my glass break on my pommel. I can shatter the window to be able to get out if I have to.
And one thing I do, I have actually emergency knives that have the seatbelt cutter built in with the glass breaker. And I have all that, and we keep them in our cars to where we can get to them. And I may not be able to get to my knife in my pocket. So, you know, keep it handy where we can do that. Now, power outages, we're going to continue. One thing about it is, what kind of heat source do you have? Is it based on electrical? You know, and most of us do. We have, you know, our heating and air, and we have that. But do you have backup sources? You know, there are some really cool propane little heaters.
Yeah.
Now you can get the ventless. In fact, years ago when we lived up in North Carolina and we had power outages regularly because it was up in the mountains, we would the power would go out, but we had one of these ventless propane heaters that we had as a backup. And so we could just turn it on and it would heat up a large area. But, you know, sometimes, you know, you may not have that. And there are some portable little propane. Now, one thing you got to be careful of, is it ventless type? Right. Is it indoor or is it outdoor? You know, sometimes they have these big, they look like fans. They're big. Those things are great for a shop that has a lot of air in it, but they're not good for your indoors. You can die from carbon monoxide poisoning. So be careful with what you buy. You need to have something that definitely can be used on the inside. So, and then also, let's say you have a heat. Now you may have wood stove. That's great. You need to make sure you have your wood put. You need to make sure you keep your chimney checked out.
That's right.
My parents, they had a fireplace. They were using it. We were going to do some stuff to it and have an insert put in. We had somebody come out and inspect the chimney. They said, no way, this thing is cracked. It's an older home. So we ended up having to take that the chimney out. So, you know, and it, because we had to re-roof the house. But, you know, you need to have your chimney checked, because again, then you can start a fire again. So, you know, again, being prepared for those little things. Now, let's say that you're in your house, you don't really have a heat source. You know, you can get some small little candle lanterns. You can put candles in this lantern and it protects it, so it keeps it from an open flame, and it actually produces heat. One thing that I think, you know, that is a good thing to do is to go into one room and seal that area off. One thing about these plastic bags is you can seal off your windows. You can seal off your doors and get into one area that, you know, your whole family can get into, and just keep that as warm as you can. That's where a little propane heater would work. But also you can have blankets, you can have sleeping bags. Make sure you have good sleeping bags. You can even set up a tent in your house. Put one of those small little candle lanterns in there or some little heater, and it would heat the tent. You'd have sleeping bags. And so, you know, you can protect yourself. Years ago, my wife was working she's a labor and delivery nurse. She was working on the weekend. I was there with the kids. We had a power outage. There was a major snow. Power went down. Our water also goes off because we had well water that was hooked up to power. We ended up going out and getting in the car at times and just turning on the heat. And so we'd sit out there sometimes, and I'd have movies going, and sometimes I'd ride around if the roads were clear enough. But that was one way that we were able to stay warm. Now, one thing you got to be careful of, if you have a garage, don't keep your car in a garage running, because that's definitely a carbon monoxide problem, and you can die from it. So there are ways to be able to do it. My brother, he's a big outdoorsman. We just did a video about his fishing channel and talked about his survival gear. He told me a story one time. He was way up in the middle of the Appalachian Mountains. He didn't really plan on, something happened. He had a problem with his car or something happened, and it was late at night, and he was up in the middle of nowhere. And this is really before cell phones. He was up there and he got really cold, and he wasn't really prepared. So he went back into his trunk. He had a bunch of jackets back there, and he put on like 4 or 5 jackets, and he wrapped up, and he was fine. So, you know, having those emergency preparedness things that are in the back of your car. And then also, this is one thing that I like to do for my emergency car kit. I like these little MTM. They're actually ammo crates, but they're great to be able to put flares, put, you know, an emergency vest in there, put some kind of signaling light, put the tools that you're going to need necessarily, a screwdriver, wrench, things like that, duct tape, things that you may need for an emergency car kit. So, you know, that's a big plus. Plus, oh man, you're going to see our awesome, this is great that it's on live. Hey guys. So anyway, while they're repairing the roof, we have a roof built in, and it's not really, it's for sound. and it just collapsed. All right, well, that's great on live. We knew that was going to happen sooner or later. We've been laughing about it. Yeah, the ammo crate is what did it. All right, now we're back. Okay, take two. That was beautiful.
I was waiting for that to happen one day.
Yeah, we've been waiting on that one. Okay, so we kind of covered some of those things. Since we've had this little disruption, let's have a little break. If you guys have some questions, can we see what kind of mess you guys have up there?
Hold on.
Sarah Matt's going to work it out. But also, while she's doing that, cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Cooking is a big thing, and your range may be out. You may have gas range, so you can keep it going.
Yep.
But, fire pits, having a place to create fire that you can cook food, having some small butane little stove. Those things are great. We've got about 3 of them. And you have the butane canisters. One thing that you want to do, even with these small little propane heaters, is get an adapter so you can run it to a larger can.
That's right.
And picking up extra cans.
Yep.
I mean, you're already grilling half the time. Plus, you have a grill.
That's right. Yeah, the griddles, like you're talking about, the little Coleman burners for camping.
Stoves. Yeah.
Those work great. I've got an adapter for mine that runs on propane, so I can buy the little 1 pound propane bottles to use those with it. And you can cook for a week on that thing with 1 pound propane bottle.
Right.
They're very efficient.
And they're fairly inexpensive.
They are very inexpensive, like 40, 50, 60 bucks. They're not crazy expensive at all. And you can get single burners or dual burners. But that's a great alternative to have put aside in case you need something that you can cook with.
And it gives you some heat.
You get quite a bit of heat off of it, especially once the pans get heated up.
Well, it's a portable fire pit, and it's a big bowl, and we had this huge grate, and we can actually move the grate off. But we've cooked on that grate.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect. Yep. In fact, I've got a review coming up talking about it because it's one of the coolest things. Robbie has in fact, you spend a lot of time on that fire pit. They have a beautiful fire pit at their house, but and it is away from the house. But not only do you have fire, you got to have a way to put things on there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, especially if you're boiling water, things like that. So you want to be able to, have some kind of grate or something set up if that's what you're counting on. All right, let's go to some questions.
The autistic prepper asks, would someone please help me understand what is okay to use besides bow and arrow for someone who doesn't want to lug it around in public, cannot use a gun unless dire 911 emergency?
Now, I'll tell you one of the first things, of course, these are some non-lethal options, but one of the first things that I count on for self-defense is a good flashlight, one that I can get my hand that the bezel comes out. And typically a little crenulated bezel. And what this does is not only can you blind them, but you can also use it as an impact weapon. And so this gives you some advantage using this rather than just your fist. So this is just an excellent way. Knives, and of course, if you're not able to carry a firearm, knives, sometimes there are a lot of laws about that, but having law, that kind of stuff. The other thing is you can roll. These are things. I did a video on unconventional self-defense tools. And you can take a newspaper or a magazine and you can wrap it up really tight, and you can use that as an effective self-defense tool. But yeah, bows, it's difficult to walk down the street with a bow. And in fact, I think it was in Germany or somewhere just recently, they had an attack. It was a terrorist attack where a guy used a bow and killed like five or six people.
Yep.
And so, bows are definitely, but also pepper spray. And guys, I highly recommend that you carry pepper spray in your car. Be careful in the summertime. If it gets really overheated, they can rupture.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't really had any problems as long as I keep it in my glove box or keep it somewhere.
I've had one rupture.
In the glove box?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, he's had one. Well, and maybe take it in and out in the summer. But pepper spray is great, especially if you find yourself in a civil unrest kind of situation that we've seen, especially on the West Coast. And pepper spray is non-lethal, but buddy, it will defuse the situation in a hurry, even more than a firearm. But there are some options.
Well, and one of the big things with a knife is if you're using a knife for self-defense, the first thing that you need to recognize and understand, if you pull a knife and have to use it for self-defense, the person that you pulled a knife to use it against for self-defense is probably going to have a knife as well. And the rule of thumb in a knife fight is know that you're going to get cut. You're going to be close with someone, you're going to be battling with somebody with a knife, and you're going to get cut. You're both going to get cut. it really just comes down to who gets cut the worst first that ends up losing.
That's true.
So just know in a knife fight that you will get, if both of you have a knife, you will get cut. So it's just the nature of the beast.
Now, the other part of this is in self-defense, and even when you have a firearm, sometimes, a lot of times you go to the ground, you're wrestling, you have physical contact. So to me, having some sort of defensive training is vital. It doesn't matter. And really, especially with martial arts, and I took martial arts for 20 years, and there's a lot about leverage, there's a lot about pressure points, there's a lot about just strength.
That's right. Striking and grappling, especially striking for stand-up, grappling from the ground, pressure points. You really need to learn and know and understand how to use those as an effective tool in your toolbox to be able to help you in those types of situations.
It's funny. Most of the time I see, like on YouTube or different places, they'll show fights that are going on. And when the guys usually don't even know how to fight.
Yeah.
They're just out there and, so if you can learn some basic things, you're not going to be a black belt in karate, but I've seen black belts in karate that were just by name only. Honestly, they weren't really all that effective. But, having the ability to be able to defend yourself and having the ability to get out of the situation.
That's right.
Okay.
Yet Squirrel asks, do you have a freeze dryer to prep for the coming hyperinflation of food?
We don't have a freeze dryer, but we do have a dehydrator. And in fact, we're looking at upgrading to a really nice one. I know y'all have one, don't you? Yeah.
We do. We use dehydrators quite a bit, not the freeze dryers. We vacuum seal a lot of stuff, a lot of our foods. We vacuum seal it, and then we use a dehydrator quite a bit. And we were talking last week about dehydrators, and some of the better ones that I found, especially for the money, you can get at Cabela's or Bass Pro Shops. They've got some really, really good dehydrators there. They cater a lot toward hunters and outdoorsmen. So and a lot of hunters like to make their own jerky and dehydrate meats and stuff, different fruits and all. And you can get a really good dehydrator at Cabela's or Bass Pro Shops right now, especially with the holidays coming up. You've got some sales that'll be coming up there, and you should be able to get one for a pretty decent price.
But really, canned food it lasts indefinitely. There's a best buy date, but canned food with the modern processes and the cleanliness and sanitation and everything that goes around those, and the sealing processes and the pressure, they will last indefinitely. So we do pretty much very heavy on canned food.
Yep.
We have long-term food storage that we have, and so we balance it out. But that's a lot of work when you have that long-term food. You're bringing it out. And then, of course, you can have, your like 4 Patriots. We just got a bunch of 4 Patriots in to try it out. And it's actually turning out to be pretty good stuff. But, there's a number of different things, and I would spread it out some. And, of course, obviously, a garden. A garden is, guys, you need to be at least doing something, even if it's just planting a few tomato plants. But doing something, because if you have a bunch of canned food and you have a bunch of dehydrated and freeze-dried and this and that, you need some fresh vegetables.
Some fresh stuff.
And so it can at least supplement.
Yep.
SoCal Deer Guy asks, Sootch, how many bags is too many? I noticed you have about 54 bags.
No, I have way more than that.
I was gonna say, that's just in his car.
No, and I do. Actually, I give bags away all the time.
Yep.
But one thing about a bag is there different purposes. I have my get home bag, and it stays in my car. I don't use it for anything else because I want all my stuff to stay right in that bag. And then I have a smaller bag. One thing that I really like, and I've gotten to lately, is a waist pack or a fanny pack. And one thing about it is if you have a bug out bag or a get home bag, and for some reason you're not able to get to it, or if I have someone else in the car, I have my bag, but they might not have a bag. I mean, Robbie and I go on a long trip, and he doesn't have a bag. We're going to be living out of my bag. So I've been putting together, in fact, a buddy of mine inspired me to do this, put together a small waist pack with all the different essentials in it. And I can have that as a backup, especially if I have someone else.
That's right. Then you've got your pack mule to carry all of your stuff, and you can just carry your essentials that you absolutely have to have.
But, there are different things that you do. Sometimes I'm going on a short trip. I know when we went up to Virginia to the big the gun rally where we were supporting the gun owners of Virginia.
Yep.
And it was a huge rally. Well, I didn't want to carry a big backpack. So instead, I had a Maxpedition Fat Boy, and I had all my stuff in there, just to kind of get me through. So there are different things that bags happen. Just like a lot of times I'll take now this is a med kit, but I'll take small bags like this, and I'll put my essential survival supplies in here, and I'll have some things in here that I need to get to. And this may be what I want to carry. Maybe I'm going on a hiking trip. I don't want to carry a big backpack, but I do want to have some essentials. So yeah, I have number bags, and I try to plan it out to make sure that I can cover different contingencies.
Well, we keep bag hooks in the garage, and so a lot of our pre-prepped bags are hung up in the garage. And then that way, if we're going on, like I said, outdoor, we're going hiking or whatever, or we're going on a day trip, whether it's in the car or we're going out walking or whatever, we can grab our day packs off of the wall, or we got our 3-day packs, or we got our car kits if we're traveling somewhere, that we can grab the bigger kit that goes in the car.
Right. One thing too about just all these different things, this kind of transcends. One thing that a lot of people forget about are just raincoats, a rain jacket, even a rain suit, but even just a rain jacket. A lot of times we keep I do it. I have like 3 of these. Yeah. I have one in my pack. I have one in my shop. I have one here at the house. The other day I was at the shop. All of a sudden, it wasn't even supposed to rain. It just started raining. This was yesterday. Yeah. It just started raining. And I just happened to have my raincoat sitting there, and I thought, well, good. So I put it on. But having a rain jacket's extra. Just set around in your car. If you're changing a flat tire on the side of the road and it's pouring down rain, this is going to be worth its weight in gold.
Well, one thing, like you were talking about rain suits, I keep a jacket and a pair of pants in the car, and they're not just for rain, but those things are tremendously warm. They do a great job at holding your body heat in. So wintertime, it's cold out, you can put that on as your base layer, and then put your jacket on over the top of it. It's going to keep you dry. It's going to keep water off of you, and it's going to help retain your body heat and keep your body heat close to you, so you're not wicking off a lot of body heat.
That's a good point. Yes, sir.
Squidward's ask thoughts on the possibility of poachers outside of grocery stores, criminals who wait for someone with a full cart of valuable items to walk to their cars so they can rob them at gunpoint. How could you spot them, and how could you position yourself in the parking lot favorably and safely to be able to access quickly or react to a threat?
Well, that's a fluid situation. And for one thing, which is something that we should all be practicing all the time, is situational awareness.
Absolutely.
Knowing what's going on. Even like at our Walmart, and boy, I don't go to Walmart after they started all their stuff. But honestly, I was glad to have a good excuse not to go, because I hate going in there and those people, and it's just awful. But in fact, I forbid my wife to go up there after 9 o'clock because it got so bad up at the one we have. But because there's a neighborhood that's about 3 miles, not neighborhood, there's a whole area down about 3 miles east of us. And those people are all coming to that Walmart, and man, it's rough. But, being aware of what's going on, when you're getting in your car, and this is just something simple, when you're getting in your car, be aware if there's somebody sitting in the passenger seat, because that is a tactic of criminals, especially if you're a woman.
Yeah.
They can be right there. And as soon as you get out and start messing with your keys, they get out of the car and they grab you and they stick you in their car. But one thing about, monitoring and looking ahead and looking for danger signs. If somebody's kind of giving you the eye a little bit here and there, know about it ahead of time. It's going to give you a little bit of a warning, which warning is about all you're going to have.
Well, and some big things that we've looked at is when you only shop during the daytime, don't go grocery shopping at night. And then what we try and do as well is my wife and I will both go to the grocery store. Yeah, I'll pull up front and I'll drop her off and let her go in and take care of the shopping. And then she'll call me when she's in line getting ready to come out, and I'll pull up in front of the store at the door, and she'll come out, we'll load the groceries and then leave. But that way you're right there in front of the store. You've got a larger area where you don't have cars that are around you that people can hide, behind or under. You're out in the open more. So you've got a bigger area where you can have more situational awareness and be able to see a threat coming.
Well, and then you move up there.
That's right.
That's fluid. They can't get to you.
That's right.
Yeah, that to me is one of the best things. And I was going to say, a great thing to do is if you're going to the grocery, and even in a grid down situation where food is like people are rushing to get food, is to go with more than one person. Have a couple of people with you. Y'all go together, kind of use yourself as security. And hopefully you have a concealed carry holder on you as well, because if they get the drop on you and they're desperate for food, it could get really ugly.
Yep.
Sean Farmer says, I have been a firefighter for over 30 years.
Wow,
it is amazing how important it is to keep interior doors closed to give critical time if a fire was to start in your home.
Yep. Right. That's right. That's what that movie years ago, I think it was Flashback or Flash something. It was where they open a door
Backdraft.
Backdraft, and it causes all that oxygen. Thank you for saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Keep those doors closed. It keeps the oxygen from and the drafts that are happening from feeding the fire even more. So thank you.
JPlayXD asks, "Hey, Sensible Prepper, I want to start prepping for SHTF, but don't want to scare my family. What's your suggestion?"
The thing is you want to be careful not to protect your family too much. One of the things, like my kids are on Instagram, and they see a lot of stuff that's going on. I mean, they are exposed to it. They see it. It's funny because when I'm going through my feed, sometimes I'll see their names pop up as liked it. Like with Newsmax or just different ones that are conservative, which show things going on. Now, if they're really young, you don't want to scare them, but you also want to give them. It's like my son. I've said this story before, but we were restocking some food supplies, and we were in the garage and we were doing some stuff. And my son, he was about 12 at the time, and he looked up at me and he goes, "Dad, why do we have all this food?" And I told him, I said, "Because if anything ever happens, we've got food. And if nothing ever happens, that's fine. We just don't have to use it." I said, "But here's the problem. If I don't have food put back, then if we run out of food and I look down at you guys and you're hungry, there's nothing stopping me from going up our street and taking whatever is up the street and come back down." I said, "I can do. I've got guns. I've been in, martial arts. It used to be kind of rough around the edges, but I just got a lot of experience with that." And so I said, "But here's the problem. I'm a Christian. I can't do that. I'm not going to do it." And so for me, having food put back just keeps me from being tempted. So, you got to know how to deal with your kids. I know Robbie's got, younger kids as well. But they need to be kind of informed, but you don't need to scare them.
That's right. Age appropriate conversations with them about the world and the way that it is today.
And, but here's the thing, guys, stock up on food. Right now, we are facing some massive shortages.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about Christmas and, you can't get your Christmas gifts. Well, okay. But, when you can't get food, that's going to make a really rough Christmas.
Well, I tell you what, I was talking with some people over the weekend, and they work in some of the grocery store chains as managers, and they were like, we normally order turkeys like they bring in like 20 to 25 pallets of turkeys a day leading up to Thanksgiving and stuff and the holidays. They said on average they place their orders like they normally do, 20 to 25 pallets a day. They said on average we're getting maybe 1 to 2 pallets of turkeys a day.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. They said, so if you want a turkey and you see a turkey in the grocery store, go ahead and get it. But don't be surprised if there aren't turkeys available for you this year for Thanksgiving and for Christmas.
And it's not just turkeys.
That's right.
It's a lot of things.
Yep.
One of the problems too is they're having problems with containers.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of food places that they're having problems getting just the boxes. They're having problems getting labels. They're having problems getting different things that go with shipping. It has nothing to do with the food itself.
Yep.
It's being able to contain it and be able to ship it
or transport it to the locations.
Yeah, and then transportation.
Yep.
So it's a domino effect, and that's what's really kind of scary because our labor right now is really low.
Okay, these questions kind of go together, but Jeffrey Harris asked, "What radio brand is that again?" And then Rossman 907 asked, "What radio do you suggest?"
Okay, this is actually from Sportsman's Guide. It's the HQ Seek radio, but the Eaton radios are really good. Be careful that if you get the rubberized coating on here, I've got one up there that is just a sticky mess. Yep. They just turn sticky after a while. This one hasn't. Actually, I got this one, and it's actually held up really well. But I like the Eaton. I have these red ones, and they have a little handle on it, and it's same thing. It's got solar, crank, and all that. But Sportsman's Guide has a lot of these different ones. I highly recommend it. Plus, you get $20 off using Sootch. Just Sootch, not Sootch 00, just Sootch. You get $20 off every $100 more purchase. So, you can really stock up on some different things. But yeah, these radios, there's a lot of different ones out there. But the Eaton are the ones I think that are the ones I usually typically count on. But the HQ, I think they make these for Sportsman's Guide. So good radios.
Bonnie Blue 2A asks, "Are those O-Light lanterns rechargeable with a USB?"
Not the large ones. They have some small ones. This is what they call the classic. It uses 3 AA batteries. And you can use rechargeable AA's, if you want to. But this one just is funny because when I opened it, because Olight's big about recharging.
Yep.
But they have their one lantern. It's just a little bit smaller, but those things will go forever.
Yeah, that's the little pop-up one.
Yeah, they have
Yep.
a couple of them actually. They have one. They have the mini. The mini's really cool.
Mhm.
They have the O bulbs, but they've got a number of these different lanterns. In fact, I've been planning a review on doing these different light systems that are outside of just flashlights, and then this one came in for this sale. So this is going to be something. In fact, it's even metal. It's pretty cool. This is a nice quality light. But yeah, this it comes in like with an old fashioned, and then it comes out with the LED, which really makes this nice. But if you keep this down to a low level, just a low setting, it'll go for a long time. But yeah, there are some. Olight does make there's O lanterns that are smaller that are rechargeable. They have that same pressure pad switch. Those things are great. I mean, we have a number.
Yeah.
We give them away on Patreon, but we also keep a number of them because we really like them.
I mean, that one's nice enough that you could actually hang it up in your home and use it as a decorative lantern in your home when you weren't using it.
Yeah, it's got that antique bronze on it. I mean, this is a really nice little lantern. So, but yeah, Olight does. They're rechargeable. I mean, those things will go forever. They'll recharge over and over too.
Ghost Ship asks, what's a good trauma kit that was not made in China?
Check out GoMed Gear. We can take care of you.
GoMed Gear is great. And two, they get a lot of their supplies from North American Rescue, which uses good quality, some of the
American-made stuff.
American-made. So, yes, check out GoMed Gear. And they're having their sale coming up.
That's
so
right.
You can check
All
it
of
out.
our medical kits will be 20% off on Thursday night to Friday night at midnight.
Chantel Stevens asks, hi, single mom of 4 here. I am wondering if you have any tips on how to prepare water for 5 long term.
Well, you can store your water, which, you can store up water in gallons, but, a lot of times that takes up a lot of room. It's very heavy.
Yep.
You want to keep it in a cool place that has no light because, that you don't want algae to set up. But what my number one way to filter water is the Berkey filter system. And you can get the different sizes. The big Berkey, it will filter, let's say it's 6,000 gallons of water. And I'm talking about creek water, whatever water. You put it in there. Now you want to pre-filter it because you don't want all that sediment. But you can put different types. You can just dump water in that. And we use it every day. Now we have the Imperial, which is this massive, and we use it every day. So it's important. But we have 4 of those filters. It will filter 12,000 gallons of water.
Yep.
12,000 gallons of water before you need to change the filters. And honestly, if you're going to have it for an emergency, you'll never use that much water, in a normal situation. But I just really highly recommend the Berkey for a long-term solution. They're a couple of $100s for the big Berkey. You can get a smaller one that's called the travel Berkey that's still stainless. And there are some things you can take the filters and put them in, PVC, or not PVC, but the food grade, type buckets, and you can do that. But honestly, with the stainless and the sanitation and the cleanliness of stainless, I highly recommend it. Water, you can only live for 3 days. So water is a very important thing to be able to filter and to be able to take care of. There are some other filters like the Katadines. There's there's just a lot of different camping type that'll get you through for a number of days that are fairly inexpensive. But get a really good quality one. But
the Berkey for a longer term solution to be able to filter large quantities of water for daily use is hard to beat.
Especially if you have 4 kids. I mean, that's 5 of you. I mean, it's important to have that water. It's going to take a lot of water because you need 1 gallon per person per day. Now, the smaller kids probably won't have as much water, but you really need about 1 gallon of water per person per day.
Yep.
Beth Watkins asks, what about making a water pump well in the backyard?
That is beautiful, and I highly recommend it. The one thing we have a natural spring, so we can actually take water. Plus, we have a creek. But yeah, getting that water deep down, putting in a well, that is beautiful. I have a buddy of mine. They have well water, and they had a pump set up on their well so they could actually pump. In fact, it even goes into the house. They can switch from one to the other, and they can pump water, and it comes right out into their sink. So yes, I highly recommend. That's one of the best ways, because then you have that purity down, getting that water out of the bedrock, and you're able to pull it, and it's going to be pure straight from the ground. So highly recommend that.
Eric Richardson asks, what are your thoughts on building go bag bags off of pre-made kits and adding from there? I'd like to start prepping, but prefer bags with more organization.
There's a lot out there, and a lot of them have really cheap stuff in them. I've reviewed a couple that were just basic, and they were fine. I mean, they would get you through, but they're not going to get you through a long-term situation. And the bags are okay, but they typically tear. Now, I have done a couple of videos, one on just the cheapest go bag you could possibly come up with from Walmart when I used to go to Walmart. And I went in there and I got just the cheapest, it was like $87, including the pack, including the backpack. But I was able to actually pick out some pretty decent stuff. But then I went back and did a premium bag from Walmart. I got the nicest backpack they had. I looked for the best quality of all the different things. And it was like $200 or $250, I think. And so, you can just go and do that. There are videos that I have on the Sensible Prepper channel. Go into the hourglass or the magnifying glass and just put in, get home bag or bug out bag, and you can find those videos on there. But yes, and and see, guys, I'm telling you one thing about it, my bag changes because I find new stuff, or I think, oh, I need this. One thing that I've added to my bags lately, and it's not necessarily this big one, but I add a pry bar to my bag, because in an emergency situation, if you have trees falling or buildings down or whatever, or you're in a car, having some kind of leverage can give you some advantage. So it's an ever evolving thing. But yeah, I mean, if you don't have anything, I would just recommend getting something and then adding to it.
Well, and the good thing is, with you already having the videos up there that show you kind of what to start with. You've got all your items that are listed out. There it is. This is what I need to go and buy. You can go to Walmart or Amazon or whatever and buy all of that stuff and have it in your bag in just a couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, it'll take you a couple of hours to run into Walmart and just, and there are other places that you can go. Of course, obviously Target or, different places.
Yep. Any of your big box stores, Academy or any of those, are all going to have about the same stuff in their camping section.
Yeah, but the thing, true. It's true.
Larry Brown asked, any tips on stocking up for picky eaters? Kids, youngest mostly eats fruits, very picky.
Yeah. That's one thing. It's funny. I have a buddy of mine that had that same issue. And one of the things he did, his girls loved mac and cheese. I'm talking about the Kraft mac and cheese. And he stocked up on a lot of mac and cheese, and it lasts for a long time. So, find out what they do. One thing that I would consider is getting a dehydrator and taking your fruits and dehydrating your fruits. It's going to give it more time. So, and then there's a lot of other things like that. And there are some long-term food storage options where they have dehydrated or freeze-dried fruits and vegetables and things that they may just eat that you could stock up on. Also, look at canned food, guys. It's the most underrated survival option out there,
especially for the money.
You can get beans and rice, but you can also get peaches and pears. You can get fruit cocktail. I mean, you can get it all, and it will last for a long. I mean, longer. Your kids will be adults and probably have kids, and may have even grandkids before that food is bad. It does degrade slightly over time, the nutritional value, but as long as you open up a can and it doesn't smell bad, and I mean, I'm not talking about something that, like sardines. Obviously they're going to smell bad coming out. But if you smell that little funky smell to it, don't eat it. When in doubt, throw it out. But otherwise, you should be able to eat it. There are guys on YouTube that'll get World War I canned rations, open them up and eat them. And they taste terrible, but they're food, and they're actually not bad.
One of the big things that I look for with any kind of canned food, whether it's fruits or vegetables or meats, is I try and buy the ones that have low sodium. Because if you look at the labels on most of your canned goods, the sodium levels are real high in them. And we do need a certain amount of salt to live, but when the sodium levels are super high in it, it can not be good for you. So you want to look for the ones that have a real low sodium content in it, whether it's soups, vegetables, fruits, whatever. Just look for the low sodium in the cans when you purchase them.
Okay, we'll come back to some questions in a minute, but we want to kind of continue down a little bit and look at some things. One of the things that we kind of touched on already is medical. Now, let me say this. I just had a kidney stone last week. It was awful. It was horrible. My family was at the beach, and I'm up here having a kidney stone. I was in the bed for 4 days. But you know, having some things, if that's what you're prone to, and I'm not necessarily, but we went out and got the things we needed. Listen, if you're having an emergency situation, you know, you need to have Imodium, you need to have Benadryl, you need to have, you know, those basic things. You need to make sure that your pantry's stocked. And Tums, antacids, things like that, if you have any kind of acid reflux. But then also the trauma kits, you know, there's not a substitute, you know, with your cat tourniquets, with your hyphen chest seals, with your, you know, your gauze, different things. It's really good to have those things already put back.
You know, one of the big things that we stock in almost all of our kits that a lot of people overlook is burn cream.
Oh.
You know, whether if you're outside cooking on a campfire or a griddle, you've got lanterns that are, you know, gas powered lanterns. You've got any type of gas powered heat, anything that produces a flame or hot spots you can burn yourself on. Having burn cream it's a lifesaver. You know, you burn yourself when it's easy to get an infection from a burn.
Right.
So you want to have a cream that you can put on there that has some antibacterial properties to it, as well as some pain relieving properties to help with that burn. So we try and stock those in all of our medical kits, the different burn creams.
But, you know, there's a number of different things, but you just need to have a well-rounded med kit. We carry one. It's a large med kit. My wife, obviously, she was a nurse for a number of years, and so she's really big on that. We go on trips. She carries the bag with her. It goes with us everywhere. And so we have all those different things because, guys, if you can't get to the store, you know, you need to be able to have those things. And that could be just in a, you know, your power's out for a week and the roads are shut down or whatever. And
I mean, how many people want to go to the doctor right now or want to go to the hospital right now for something that they could potentially treat at home?
Right.
You know, it's,
right.
You know, you run the risk of getting sick going to the doctor's office. If you go to the hospital may not even take you right now because of the, you know, the COVID patients and then the nurses and stuff that are being sent home because they won't take the jab. You know, there's a lot of different variables that are going on right now. So having the tools you need at home to be able to treat yourself and protect yourself in case of any type of emergency or injury is paramount.
Well, and you know, the thing is with that, you saying that about the jab, you know, there's a lot of companies that are losing vast amount of employees, which is going to affect our economy.
Yeah.
I know a good friend of mine that works for a major company. In fact, both of his sons actually work there too. And it's in the heating and air industry. And they just sent them a letter saying, you know, you had till this date to get a vaccine or or we're going to fire you. And he's like not getting the vaccine, which that's my point of view, but he's not getting it. And he said, well, so be it. And he has a really high job there. I mean, he's been there for like 30 years and he makes a lot of money, but he's like, whatever. So there's a lot of people, we're going to see some shortages in just regular industry, but also in the healthcare industry, in the firefighting industry, sector, and then also in law enforcement and a lot of other areas. So it's going to be more and more important that you are more self-reliant.
That's right.
More than it ever has been. More than ever in the U.S., except for, the early days of the U.S. when we had the knowledge to be able to take care of ourselves. Okay, so definitely, let me see. We got a list, and I just want to make sure I don't miss something. We talked about the car kit. One thing too is, guys, is some tools. Having a chainsaw is important. Having some fuel put back. We get the jerry cans. In fact, I got them from Sportsman's Guide. Got some jerry cans, and we keep extra fuel in there. Keep your car topped off. Don't let it get below half a tank. Honestly, don't let it get below 2/3 of a tank. Very expensive right now to do that, but you need to make sure because we could have some kind of fuel shortage or, for whatever reason, you need to have fuel in your vehicle. And then again, self-defense. I mean, I know that some of you guys live in places that frown or are kind of restrictive towards self-defense, especially if you're from another country, because people from all over the world watch this stuff. But here in the U.S., if you live in a state, you can possess firearms, which every state you can possess them. Definitely take care of that, because as we see law enforcement not only defund the police, but then a lot of them walking off. Crime will rise. It just will. And you need to be able to protect yourself and your family. And guys like the guy that talked about the bow and arrow, and having a bow. If that's what you've got, and that's all you can have, then you need to have something.
That's right.
But the one thing about a firearm is that it is a great equalizer. You can take a 250-pound linebacker and put him against a 90-pound cheerleader, and you put guns in their hands, and all of a sudden you've equaled it.
Mm.
Otherwise, this guy's going to do what he wants to do. So, that is one thing to consider. Okay, we're getting close now. Security, home security. And guys, let me tell you, we just installed the Ring system. We already had cameras. We've already got a security system. We got all this stuff going on. But we installed the Ring system, honestly, because of Robbie, because he uses it.
Yep.
And they're fairly inexpensive. You can set up the Ring system, just one doorbell ringer, especially according to what kind of house you have. It's like about $120 or something. Right. They're not expensive.
And you can find them on sale. You can find them on sale for $99. So shop around a little bit, but they are, it's got a phone app, goes to your phone. So you can do a monitored service or an unmonitored service. Their monitored service is not expensive for an annual plan, but it's great clarity. They've got a long reach with them, with the zones, and as far as they'll go, they're like 270 degrees view, or 170 degrees view. So I mean, it's a real wide panoramic view and a very clear image. I highly recommend them.
And when anybody's coming in and out, I've got one at my shop. I've got one here at the front door. Got one at the back door. We have other cameras set up. We're a little bit over the top, but we have to be. And then we have Lance, our German Shepherd. Nobody wants to. They'd rather have that than have him come out, because he is not very friendly to strangers. But the one thing I love though about the Ring is that if somebody, which you've used, somebody comes to the door and they're messing around, you can actually talk to them, and you can be in another state because you can have it on your app. And so you can say, "Excuse me, can I help you with something?" So it kind of lets people think that you may be inside, and they may just move on. But then you get a good camera visual of them. In fact, Robbie had someone come up to his mom's house when they had moved her into his house because, she was just elderly, and they had a guy messing around.
Yep. Tried to break in and, pulled the camera up, pulled the microphone up, like, "Hey, you need to leave." And what does he do? He goes, "Thank you. Thank you for that really good picture."
And then the police picked him up,
and then
just a little bit later.
Him up because they had a super clear image of what he looked like.
And they knew exactly who he was, which is typical. So, guys, home defense, one thing that we do, home security, is we have a driveway alarm. They're fairly inexpensive in fact, I've got a video on it, driveway alarm. And you can, every time somebody comes down, it chimes inside the house. The dogs know exactly what's going on, too. It's hilarious. They know which window to look out. So the driveway alarm goes off. Well, then at first I couldn't see. So I finally got my flashlight out, then I got night vision out. But then I got really smart and I set up a motion sensor light. So as the driveway alarm goes off, this light goes boom, and it lights up the whole freaking area. I mean, it's actually like when you know it's going to hit, you kind of do that. And so it's on solar power. So it's just run. Both of them are on solar. They run up there. It runs great. So there's some options to be able to do that aren't very expensive to set up your security system or your security perimeter and figure out what's going on. Okay, guys, we are out of time. And we really do appreciate you guys. Thanks for all the great questions. That means a lot to the whole community. And to, even the comments down below. Please leave comments because people go back and they read them. And it can help someone to be better prepared. Next week, we're going to get a little bit more in depth in a little bit more preparedness. We just want to talk about some basics today, but we're going to be taking a step. Every week, we're going to be building on every aspect of prepping and of being prepared. And that will include food, it'll include water, it'll include, all the different things that go around the prepping mindset, because the thing is we want to be more self-reliant. We really appreciate Sportsman's Guide for sponsoring today's video, and they give a $20 off every $100 or more purchase using Sootch, just SOOTCH. It works. I've used it 1,000 times. I buy stuff all the time on Sportsman's Guide.
So, and you have to sign up for their Buyers Club as well. The Buyers Club, you get free shipping on the majority of their items, and you also get another discount for being a member of the Buyers Club. So even if you don't use the coupon or sign up for the Buyers Club, at least sign up and get their magazine. Dude, I'm telling you, this thing is great. Get it, flip through it, and you're going to be like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe I've never got this magazine before," and you'll start ordering from them. Tremendous magazine.
But guys, that's 20% off of $100. So, I mean, it's a fantastic deal. And we really appreciate Sportsman's Guide for offering that. We also want to thank Sarah Mack over there on the computer, monitoring the comments and questions and setting everything up. And if you guys weren't involved in the roof that collapsed, you go back and watch that. That was kind of crazy and fun. But guys, again, we'll be back next week. These will be on a playlist. We've already got volume 1. This is volume 2. And you can go to the playlist, and we're going to have all these listed. So if you need to go back and check certain things, you'll have that resource. But be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic.